as is often the case with Donald Trump, we have an unprecedented situation here. All right, so first let me hit you with the headline from the New York Post. Lisa Cook standing up for the Federal Reserve over possible mortgage fraud is really a ploy to turn a blind eye from the Fed's mission creep into wokeness. Okay, we got a whole bunch of things to unpack here. I think Jamie Dimon or somebody big in the financial world just a few months ago, he was making the same allegation about the Fed. We talked about it on this show. But so there's a criminal referral against Lisa Cook, who is a member of the Federal Reserve, for mortgage fraud. So Trump removes her from the Fed. Then she sues Trump, says, no, you cannot remove me from this job. Where are we now, David?
So, okay, I don't like the optics of Trump doing this, but let's go back in a little history here. 6 different times a Fed governor has had improprieties brought up, minor things, way more minor than this mortgage fraud application. They immediately resign to save face and respect the institution.
Just keep it clean.
Doesn't matter politically who's president. Okay. Every time the person has resigned their post and quietly gone back to, in society. This is not the case today. We have this very polarized, and so the optics look horrible. But the reality is she should be removed. She did commit mortgage fraud, and not once. Chip, there's 3 different mortgages involved now when you dig into this, and she put them all down as primary residence. Just, if you were to file a homestead exemption, and I own property in multiple states, I can only file a homestead exemption as primary residence in one state. So not only can she be sued federally for this, she could be sued by the different states where she owns.
This is tax fraud.
This is absolutely tax fraud.
Okay.
And this is
prison stuff. Because I want my primary residence
yeah.
here because the taxes are lower.
Correct.
Where I actually live.
So
okay.
like here, you only really get the homestead exemption once you turn 65, unless you have other qualifying things. Like in other states, it's your primary residence. Like in Florida, you get a $25,000 homestead exemption just for being your residence. So in other words, they take $25,000 off your assessed value. You can't do that if you're claiming it in another state. In fact, they send out letters from the local treasuries in the counties where I own properties warning you of such fraud. They will come after you criminally and with civil fines as well. But anyway, she absolutely committed mortgage fraud. The data is there. But this is just, the political world we're in today. So I don't like the optics of it. But to get to the deeper root, though, yes, not only is this article talk about the woke slip mission creep, if you will, of the Federal Reserve, they are mandated to, with monetary policy, right, to basically regulate interest rates to try and control the economic growth, expansions or downturns, collapses, recessions, et cetera, through tightening or loosening monetary supply. We then added congressional authorities, gave them an additional mandate a couple decades ago of full employment. So they have what we call a dual mandate. Why do they employ 680 employees that are all PhD level employees, all making well over 6 figures a year? Why are they paying $300 billion in interest to the 5 largest commercial banks in America, giving them a free ride? That is not the way the Federal Reserve was designed. And so not only is this article calling out and Jamie Dimon calling out, Brian Westbury, who I quote often on the show, First Trust Portfolios, the lead economist there, is calling them out actively every day. And so this is a problem. And again, we have to get rid of this partisan nonsense when these stories come up, and we need to act on the facts, but that's not the way the political world works today.
Is there some gray area here as to whether Trump actually has the authority to fire her from the Fed?
You can be fired, but only for cause. So you're appointed for 12 or 14-year stints. I forget if it's 12 or 14, forgive me, but you're appointed for this time, and you can only be fired for cause. In other words, if you negligence, fraud, or you criminal behavior, and this would qualify.
A criminal referral from mortgage fraud, yeah.
Yeah, and so again, anytime anything even close to something this is sniffed up when somebody had just something, I mean, a divorce, an affair, all these things, the person has resigned immediately to save the institution to have to go through this, right? And now the institution's being dragged through the mud.
I presume that cuts across party lines. It hasn't been a partisan matter. It's just impropriety.
Well, like I talk about a lot.
Cloud on the institution.
We've had partisan politics since inception, right? Since we've been a country. However, we've typically had gentlemen come across the aisle, and I talk about famously when I was a kid, basically we had Ronald Reagan, a conservative president, and you had Tip O'Neill, pretty liberal leader of the congressional. They made a deal, right? And that's how we got tax cuts in 81 and 83. That's also why we charge tax on Social Security. That's why you pay for Medicare. I mean, there's all kinds of things that were, and the same thing, you had Newt Gingrich, a staunch conservative, and Bill Clinton as president come across, meet the aisle. But since Bush Jr., we've had no reaching across the aisle. It's just, and it's just petty politics. And it's hard because now, depending on what side you're on, where you get your media, if you're watching one of those crazy cable stations, I barely watch TV anymore. It's useless to me. But you can go on social media and you're just going to be fed more of the same or whatever you click on. And so everybody gets so worked up. Instead of looking at the data, look at the facts and make decisions based on it. I mean, what a unique concept, Chip, using wisdom and data and logic to make decisions. Oh, man, what a country we might be if we did that, huh? Hey, if you're looking for more content like this, make sure you check out these videos and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you'll be notified when we publish more content that will help you retire smart. Thanks for watching.